Hey everyone, I want to do some quick coverage on something that Joe said. And so let's take a look at it. I linked the CNN article in the description. You can take a look if you want. The what he said is at the very bottom. So we have this thing where George Santos is saying a lot of stuff that's not true. And while he's doing that, you start to see how actual pathological liars and narcissists do what it is that they do, their favorite thing, which is never telling the truth. And go all the way to the bottom, and you'll see what it is that I'm seeing. This is where his George Santos's former roommate is talking about a Burberry scarf that was stolen from him by George Santos and then worn to the January 6th rally. Um, and let's see. So he talks about the scarf. Yeah. Yes, I do miss my stone check Burberry scarf, but at the same time, it's why I feel like they're not focusing enough on the issues at hand. So there's his scarf is missing. It's been stolen. He's seen it on TV at the January 6th rally worn by George Santos, which is nuts. And then Santos's defense, he tells Don Lemon that he has never stolen a scarf or anything else in his life. And this is how narcissists lie. It's not just how they defend their lies, it's by telling another lie. Narcissists can't do anything but lie, is what it seems a lot of times. And a lot of times their defense is that, as his roommate actually says further up, he didn't think that anybody would lie about these things that other people could check. So narcissists and pathological liars, they lie big. They lie about things that they're fairly sure, they're almost certain, in fact, that nobody else will question them on because nobody would lie about that sort of thing, is kind of everyone's assumption. This is what he says. His roommate says, I kind of assumed he has made up about going to Baruch and NYU, but then I thought, well, maybe I was wrong, after the election, because I'm sure the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and the Republican National Committee would have investigated him, and at least his opponent would have done some opposition research. And it turns out that no, everyone pretty much believed this guy at his word because he was telling the kind of lies that people don't check up on. So one, tell a kind of lie that people just feel like no one would lie about. Like there's no point in having to check up on that because no one would do that. Especially they really like doing this with facts that you can easily confirm because either congressional party, either congressional caucus could have just figured this out on their own. They could have easily looked up whether this guy was who he says he was, did what he said he did, but they didn't. They just sat down and didn't. So for one, lying big about things, but two, the way that he says he never did that. In fact, it's not that he never did it. He could have just said, I didn't do that. I've actually been waiting for somebody who's been very sus to like just on the news say a very like calm and rational defense, like they are saying I did this, I did not do this, end of story. That should be enough, but they always have to add bluster and they always have to add a cherry on top to get you to believe something, to project something. So it's not that he didn't steal that scarf, it's that he has never stolen a scarf. He is there, of all the scarves that George Santos has seen, he has never stolen any of them, he'll have you know. And this is actually the part that makes it weird for me, because why would we wonder if he ever stole a scarf in his life? That's not what we asked. It's not what Don Lemon asked. It's not what anybody cares about. Nobody cares about whether George Santos is going around stealing scarves. They want to know, did you steal this one guy's item? Like, that scarf right there, is that stolen from this guy? That's the only thing that we care about. If you add more on top of that, you are distracting from the issue. And that's what he's doing. He's distracting from the issue. He uses this as an opportunity to say, not only has he never stolen a scarf, but actually he's never stolen anything in his entire life. He's that honest. So what they do is they take the accusation and they turn it into an opportunity to feed you something else, which is also BS. Santos does not have a way of ascertaining whether he's stolen anything in his life. I just if you're saying your entire life, that's including all the time that you were a kid, and I just don't think that he can remember all that. Like most people cannot remember if as a kid they like took a piece of candy or something from someone at some point. I think that there's a lot of, opportunities that someone can have to steal something in quotations and it be pretty benign. And I also think that he's just really not going to remember all that stuff because he lies all the time. So um, the in his life part, like, in my entire life, I have never, they really like to use the word never. Instead of saying didn't, I didn't do that. They have to say, I never did anything like that in my life. And they think that I never did anything like that in my life is convincing, but it's not. Because you should be able to just cleanly say, like, I didn't do that. And the suggestion that I did that is frankly strange. You should be able to say that with a straight face. That should be convincing enough. But if you've got to add a lot of hyperbole on top, never in your life, these are hyperbolic words. And these are words that narcissists use a lot. Um, if I were a narcissist, I think I would probably say narcissists are always using words like this. Instead, I say narcissists use words like this a lot. Because there's a difference between doing something a lot and doing something all of the time without stopping. That is the difference between real life and hyperbole. Narcissists don't want to stop at real life. They want to head straight on into hyperbole. Hyperbole is what gets them everything, it seems like. All of their power of suggestion is basically trying to get people to build on what it is that they're suggesting, but not actually guaranteeing, not actually promising in any real way. And also, by the way, in this article, it talks about how George Santos purportedly stole money from a guy's GoFundMe for his sick dog. So maybe I feel pretty angry about George Santos right now, because if this is true, then he is just a scum bag. Now what makes this wizard news? Well, for one, I'm a wizard and I'm telling it to you. But two, I think it's really important that we pay attention to what is happening in the news sphere when it comes to pathological liars and narcissists getting exposed. Now, the reporters who are reporting on George Santos and Trump and, other figures, they're not going to always say George Santos, known pathological liar, or George Santos, highly suspected narcissist, before they go on about the person. They're not going to call out the fact that he's a narcissist and a pathological liar. In fact, I heard the term fabulist. The word liar, the word lie, both of those words are very difficult for reporters to say because apparently it's too close to possibly being defamatory. So they'll find a lot of nice ways of saying liar. And so you won't really hear the term pathological liar as much, but you will hear narcissist. That one tends to not be as pressable when it comes to the slander and libel categories. But you will see them pick apart like how the lies are getting exposed. This is not just something that happens with political figures in Congress. This is something that can happen with anyone that is around you who fabricates things more than they just tell you what's really going on. And understanding how this man got into Congress. He's in Congress right now. He is one of our elected representatives at the highest levels of government. And he got there entirely on lies. So understanding how he did that and understanding how he's still there, still convincing his peers in Congress to back him up enough that they haven't ousted him yet. Which, by the way, like they even gave him 2 committee assignments recently. So they're not just like putting up with him, they're propping him up. That means that he's managed to tell somebody something that has them totally on his side. And, I'm sure he told something to Kevin McCarthy to get his political assignments, to get his committee assignments, and to get all this political backing. But at a certain point, I wonder if Kevin McCarthy is going to evaluate, did George Santos actually promise me real things? Did he tell me the truth? It's really interesting to see people who side with pathological liars and narcissists, who ally with them, who team up with them, and then later on you'll see them turn on them. And you see like several figures in Trump's former political group. There's people who have turned on him, like Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen has told many lies in his life, but now he's exposing Trump for his lies. And it's funny to see him turn around and say, "Look at him! Look at how bad he is! Look at how bad all the things that he is do." And it's like you were doing that with him up until a certain point. What was your line? And we know what was the line when it came to Michael Cohen. It was about going to jail. But it's very interesting to see people think that they're the exception when it comes to the pathological liars, when it comes to the narcissists. They know the person they're dealing with is a narcissist, but they are the narcissist's ally, and the narcissist will treat them differently than the narcissist treats the rest of the world. So you have a narcissist. You have a narcissist at the top and the narcissist under that narcissist, who all think that they're all the most special, and the narcissists under those as well. And that's really the only way you can keep it up. Those lies tend to go all the way down the chain. You tend to find a lot of these people in communications offices, I'll tell you that. So that's it. That's how to spot a liar. How to spot lies is look for uh, basically the cherry on top of the cherry. You can say you've never stolen anything in your life. You can say that you never did that. You can say that like you've never done anything like that in your life. But to say I have never stolen a scarf or anything else in my life just seems to be a bit too much bluster for the question, doesn't it? If you're just trying to explain where something is and how it got there, and the fact that you have nothing to do with the fact that it's gone from point A to point B and is no longer with its original possessor, um, you shouldn't have to talk about how many things you've stolen in your entire life. All we're asking about is that one item. What that really makes it sound like, in fact, is that George Santos has stolen many things in his life. And in fact, many pathological liars and narcissists have the klepto thing as well, where they just like steal things left and right, and they steal them in the same way. They steal a really important item or like really valuable item. In this case, it's a designer scarf. It's Burberry. That's expensive. It's hard to get, and it's a real sign of prestige. So they often see something that they want and they decide how to make it theirs starting now. And they immediately justify it in their minds. Like I've seen so many narcissists. I've experienced several narcissists kind of try to make this up in the moment of how they weren't trying to steal that, they were just borrowing it. Oh, you wanted that back? Well, here, you can have it back right away, kind of thing. And you can tell that they had no intention of returning it until you brought it up, and they had no way to actually back down from it. So yeah, I guess that wraps it up. um Pathological liars and narcissists, keep an eye on them. Cheers.